it down about the team from their hometown. Josh to Keon, touchdown. Rodgers to Wilson, touchdown. You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two are ride or die. They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince, and I'm here with my co-host Stevie D. Stevie D, we had to have a little alteration of the schedules. Obviously, we were promoting the upcoming interview we're going to have with former Buffalo Bill Derek Burrows. But Hurricane Milton kind of came in and said, hold on, fellas. We know you're set for Wednesday at 8 o'clock, but I think I want to come knocking on Florida's door about that time. So, CBD, I had to move it a little earlier. I'm outside boarding up windows and boarding up doors and getting gas. Let me tell you, it's crazy out there. It is crazy. The lines for gas are wrapped around, right? And, using the Gas Buddy or whatever that thing's called app, right? Trying to find out who has gas. Going to Lowe's and Home Depot and, you think you're prepared, but I don't know if you can ever really be prepared. So I'm
praying for you. I'm praying for you. As a former Floridian, I'm praying for everybody down there. Obviously for you, my brother in arms here, and for mom and everybody's safety, your cousin, everything like that. That's still down there. It's just 2 and 10 days. It's hard to comprehend in certain areas in Florida, right? Where you're going to get hit now twice in 10 days, and just you feel for everybody.
Yeah, indeed.
Pray for a miracle, right?
So if that wasn't story enough, right, then here comes the story out of Florham Park, New Jersey. Right? They just want to they want to always be in the spotlight. They knew we had the interview with Derek Burrows, but no, Woody Johnson has to come in. Stevie D, tell us what happened.
Oh, well, the funny part about this is that you and I were talking about this literally yesterday, right? Like they got to go. Salah's got to get fired and promote Jeff Ulbrich as the new head coach. And who would have thought? I don't know. 12 hours later, less than 12 hours later, I wake up as Jay's really the one with the breaking news.
Yeah.
Right? And he breaks the news saying Salah got fired. I'm like, what? And I'm going everywhere to try and find it. So the Jets finally did the deed that I think everybody knew it needed to come. Look, you from a human perspective, you don't wish anybody to be fired, right?
Sure.
You wish it all works out. You just don't wish it on anybody. But the statistics and the numbers don't lie. I know you weren't a fan of him from the very beginning in year one. You saw things that you didn't like. And so for the Jets, 20 and 36, the numbers are just all the way down or not any good. And so I don't have a problem with them getting rid of him in week 5. I just don't understand why wasn't it done in the offseason if you just were going to give him 5 games. Maybe it's because the Aaron Rodgers effect, see what he can do with him or not. But I just think it's the same old story because there's a lot to unpack here with Salah.
So you mentioned week 5, right? Which we've seen it in other sports midseason, baseball, hockey, basketball. Rarely do you see it in football.
Yeah.
But Stevie D, we got somebody who has seen it in football, right? So without further ado, right, let's take it to Derek Burrows, former defensive back with the Buffalo Bills, now the athletic director at Lane College. Derek, welcome.
Hey, glad to be here.
We're absolutely thrilled to have you on. One of the things that I always talk about is kind of the era that you played with the Buffalo Bills, because for me, right, you have some of the folks that a little older, right, they could talk about Cookie Gilchrist and talk about OJ, the Electric Company, all those guys, right? I was too young to really appreciate that. But as I was playing ball and growing up and being in Buffalo, I really took to that team and just to watch it kind of grow. before we get into anything, really related to you, Stevie D and I were just talking about Robert Saleh was let go today from the Jets, and it was a mid-season type firing. You don't really see that too often. Maybe later on in the year, right when all hope is lost. But you guys experienced that early on in your career with Buffalo, where it was early on in the season they decided to let somebody go. What from a player's perspective, what's kind of the thought process going around in the locker room and amongst each other?
Well, I mean, if I had been a veteran, I probably would have, kind of had my head to the ground. But me being a rookie when Kay Stevens got fired, I think it was only 6 games in or something like that.
Yeah,
So, but I was just a rookie then, so my head wasn't to the ground, and I was just, just out there playing, and and then Hank Buller took over, and then I'm not really sure how many games Hank Buller put in, but he was relieved of his duty also, and then Marv Levy came in, so we got that stability when Marv came in.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Stevie D, maybe your Jets will get the stability with Albrecht. We don't know.
We've talked about it, right? It's the same story with Robert, that the lack of accountability. It's the same mistakes week in and week out in his whole tenure. There's no discipline when it comes to penalties. Our offense can't get out of the way. He only talks about the defense. He has little interest, appears, for the offensive side of the ball. And so when you're hearing the same message week after week, it's it's kind of alarming as a fan. But I don't know what it's like in the locker room. And Derek, I kind of defer to you because you've been in the locker room. Um, it was uh, when they lost to Denver at home 2 weeks ago. Salah and Aaron Rodgers weren't on the same page when they were talking about cadence. Salah said that's a problem with the cadence, and then Aaron Rodgers says, "Well, I guess you could say that, but it's really not a problem with the cadence." And then last week in London, Quincy Williams, our linebacker, basically came out and talked about accountability quite a bit. And so, what's interesting is that you had an offensive player talk about basically accountability in that press conference. He used the word, and then Quincy Williams used the word, and then the next day, Salah is relieved of his duty, or 2 days later, Salah is relieved of his duty. I mean, do you, as players, do you say this guy's got to go? Like I can't play for him, or he just doesn't make any sense. What he's saying, it's not relating to us. I mean, do you feel that as a player?
Well, I have, but I didn't voice it to anyone. Uh, I have felt that about a coach, that I thought he was one of the worst coaches I've ever played for, but I didn't voice it to any of the other. I didn't, in particularly management, So I have felt that way, but of course, me being a rookie, uh, so I didn't care to voice it to anyone. Kind of keep it to myself. I didn't want to get off to a bad start.
In your book, actually, you talk about some of the coaching decisions, right? Where some of the we'll call them the better players, the better athletes, were kind of re- basically put on the bench in favor of maybe using favorite is too much because it was favoritism, right? Putting somebody else in there who wasn't as qualified, and you as players recognize we have this stud that's sitting over here,
Right.
right? And this is what we get,
Yeah.
right? And then your record is almost reflective of that.
Right. Well, I want to make it clear that when I said that in the book, I was talking about college and not
Sure,
professionally now.
sure.
So I want everybody to know that I did make reference to during my college days I felt like we were meeting quotas. Not necessarily, not that that was not the case in Buffalo,
Mhm.
but I did write in the book that I really felt like there was guys on the team that really could help us out. And I wrote about a kid by the name of Ray Brown. Ray Brown played 20 years in the NFL. He was an offensive lineman with the Washington Redskins, all pro. I mean, this guy was a freaking beast at Memphis. Came in as a freshman, 6'5", 255, just killing. And we moved him to third team tight end so we could play somebody else. You know that you can't justify that. You know, we won one game, and you telling me that Ray Brown, a 20-year NFL veteran, couldn't have played for us? That's bullshit. You know, am I allowed to curse on this?
You know, we have two versions. We have OW Sports After Dark.
No, I'm gonna keep it clean. That's crap, man.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And actually, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're here with Derek Burrows, former defensive back with the Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia, you already know, right? And then as well, currently athletic director at Lane College. But moreover, Derek has written a book. And it's his book, Erased from History, which I challenge him, and I kind of wrote it in there, and we'll get to it. Why I challenge that title, because I'm just going to skip around. First of all, I'm going to tell everybody you have to read the book. Go get the book, right? I got it from Amazon. Just go get the book. Bills Mafia, go get the book. It's a great read. It obviously talks about Derek's life, right, coming up, but certainly it talks about his time not only in college but with the Buffalo Bills. But there's just so much to it in all the lives. All right, so it says erased from history, right? This is our struggle. It says erased from history,
Right.
But I get the first part. Right. I get when you go back to high school and there's nothing there. Right. I get that.
Right.
I get Memphis.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
But where it changes is when you go back home. It changes when you're working with the kids. It changes as the foundations. It changes as you now become the head coach at Lane College. It changes as the AD. In all the lives that you have touched along the way, right? You're able to share on your history, your background, the things that you have learned. And there's some other things you talk about, right? And you talk about things that your mother has told you, right? And as you go through, you realize that you have learned our journey. And I don't want to get too philosophical here, right? But our journeys that we go through in life is all based on what we have learned the day before, the year before, right? And that helps us grow so that we can make better decisions. We just don't make good decisions all the time, right? But you learn from it.
That's human nature sometimes.
And that's what you have done. And you've been able to show these young people who are now growing into adults that can now share the lessons that they learned from you to the next generation.
And you know what? I get that too. And I feel where you're coming from with that. And I'm not erased to these kids. But when I wrote the book, and when I had been thinking about writing a book for so long, and every time I start telling stories, people would say, man, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. So then when I started thinking about maybe I should, and then if I wrote a book, what would the title be?
Right.
And so I started thinking, about the way I really feel about my life before Lane College, and my NFL career, and I can go home and I can be recognized at home, but there's no sign of Derek Burrows at Blount High School, or it took 40 years for Memphis State to recognize me. I didn't even walk across stage in high school. I haven't walked across stage in college. It just, one thing happened, you said, well, that happened. Two things, but it's a whole list of things that made me feel like I've been erased. So it ain't just that.
It makes you stronger.
Yeah, it does.
It makes you stronger.
But it still
it hurts.
Stings a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I do. I feel you, but I just wanted you to know,
Yeah.
as somebody, first of all, we've never met prior to this, right?
Right.
Or, well, the little messages we communicate, we've never met. And somebody who knew of you, but reading the book really had a deeper appreciation. I want you to know that I feel as though what you have done, maybe say post NFL, right, has left a bigger mark, a more indelible mark that will have a longer lasting impression than any sign that may be hung somewhere,
Right.
because it's you that was able to help grow the youth, right? And then they could take that on and pass that on and help. And you talk about, some of the people that you have and what they've done after. So I don't want to belabor the point. I just want you to know that I could see where it's not a race. It is truly history that should go generation to generation, and it's being led by you. So I appreciate that.
If you're into the spiritual, you have a purpose on this planet. It sounds to me that everything that you went through at a younger age and through your NFL career put you in a position to help the youth,
Absolutely.
right? And that's right. Everybody's got a purpose, and it seemed like your journey was for that purpose. And I don't know if you see it that way today.
No, I see it absolutely that way. But the struggles and the walk that I've walked has made me feel very unappreciated at times. The fact that I've never been invited to a Buffalo Bills game ever. The fact that since the day I got hurt, I've never spoken to anyone ever from the Buffalo Bills, other than a phone call I got last year from Jeremy Kelly. And the only reason he called me because Darryl Talley told him to call me. So yes, I am truly doing the work I think God wants me to do, is work with these kids that came up just like I came up. And that is important. And you're right. If you look at it from that point of view, I'm never erased. But it just seems that so many things that it should have been different.
Sure.
I probably wouldn't feel the way I feel if the Bills probably had showed just a little bit more care. Or even my high school. It's not just about the Bills. Even my high school. I'm the highest drafted player ever out of my high school. I'm the first player to ever sign $1 million contract. I'm the first player from Mobile that has done everything. But yet, if you walk into Blount High School, Derrick Burrow's name doesn't appear. And there's guys on the wall that didn't even play pro football. Guys that started for Alabama A&M.
You're okay with the Alabama A&M as long as you didn't put Morehouse in there. You're good.
No. That was a joke, man.
If I may, for a second, because you're bringing up your past. I mean, what you accomplished. You're a first team all conference.
Yeah.
You're a defensive player of the year. You were on the blue-gray all-star team. You participated in the Senior Bowl, which is a select group of people. Like, those are big-time things that you accomplished in your college career.
Hold on. And you had a pick six in that game, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a pick six in the blue-gray game.
Yeah.
Took it about 60 yards for a touchdown. MVP. First player from my high school to play in the Senior Bowl. You wonder, with all those accolades, and I'm not stroking myself by any way. I shouldn't be anywhere in my high school. My name should be somewhere in my high school. I mean, Vince, there's nothing. I mean, isn't there something wrong with that picture?
What it is.
I mean,
I got nothing for you there. It is right.
Yeah.
But
Come on.
when you mention guys that really haven't gone anywhere, what comes to mind is Married with Children and Cole Kai, right? He's proud of what he did, his 4 touchdowns in the game, but that's it. Something's wrong.
Yeah, but I have to, I've learned to laugh about it or make fun of it. But it's just too many things like that has happened in my life. And that's where I got erased from history from.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, I guess we have to address the 800-pound gorilla in the room because you already let it out.
Yeah.
Again, this is in no particular order.
Yeah.
I guess, how do we get there? How do we get there? You have a first-round draft pick. You were drafted same year as Bruce Smith, right? Obviously, Bruce took a little bit more of the headlines, right? But you're still there in the first round, right? You are a starter in essence, I think, midway through or early on into your rookie year.
5 games in.
5 games in, you make all rookie team, right?
Yeah.
And you are part of the rebirth. You can start to see the growth of the team, right? Because you had Kelly, who was coming back from the USFL. You had Daryl Talley, who had already been on the team. And you just start seeing some of these names start coming through. And these are the names, again, Bills Mafia, these are the names that we know when we cherish that Super Bowl run, right, for the 4 consecutive years. But really, it goes beyond that, right? Because it goes to Cleveland in 89. It goes to Cincinnati in 88. And my friend Derek Burrows with that Cincinnati game in 88. First, that game hurt, right? That game hurt. And I feel like that we were not supposed to win that game. That's what I feel like. Bruce Smith is called for a face mask on a sack against Boomer when he grabbed Boomer by the neck, right? They call it a face mask. Huge change of events with that, right? Nothing you can do about that. But ultimately, what everybody remembers is what do they say? Mazeroski was the shot heard around the world, Stevie D. Isn't that what they use?
Yep.
Well, this was the punch heard around the world. You talk about it, you go into it in your book. And I don't want to give away the whole book during this podcast. I want people to go buy the book. But I do want you to kind of talk about this one because this one resonates.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to go back a little bit, and I remember when I was coaching that week, I was trying to get our kids to understand how important playing mistake-free football was, and how important discipline is on the football field. We had an excessive amount of penalties, right, that week. So when we turned on the film, my kids thought that we were getting ready to watch our opponent. And it could have been Morehouse that week, to be honest, totally honest with you. But our kids thought that I was getting ready to turn on our opponents when I turned on the 1989 film of the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. And I let them watch me throw that punch at that kid, Tim McGee, and get thrown out of the game. And that was my way of showing them how important it is to have discipline and keep a level head. I didn't do a good job of it that day. I didn't. And I hope that they understood by using me as an example that I've played it in my mind 1,000 times. Still today, I still, wish I could have been a better player on that particular play. because any penalties, no matter when it is, it hurts the team first of all. So, after that, I couldn't have gotten ready for the onslaught of criticism I took, and a lot of it was justifiable.
But Derek, talk about a little bit what led up to the punch.
Well, first of all, I had a bad ankle, and I took 3 shots in my ankle just to even play. Mm-hmm. So as I was warming up, I was limping, and Tim McGee and Chris Collinsworth, they watched me during the warm up, and I could not plant off my right foot. Even if you watch the '89 film, I came off the field because they kept shooting at my, they kept throwing at my ankle, and they connected one time, and I had to come off the field. The series before, I had to come off the field, and it just built up. It built up to the point where I always thought that we always wanted to be competitive with each other, but I never thought that they would want to hurt me. Mm-hmm. And I got to the point where they knew I was hurt, but yet they kept shooting at my ankle. And it boiled over to the point where this is beyond football now. You're trying to injure me. You're trying to hurt my career. And before I knew it, I threw an elbow at him and got thrown out of the game and got a penalty for it. But, I took a lot of criticism, still do today, to be totally honest with you. I took a lot of criticism for that. Just and unjust. Very just. I shouldn't have thrown the penalty. I shouldn't have thrown my elbow, shouldn't have had the penalty. I try to teach our kids how important it is to have discipline. I should have had it myself. Mm-hmm. But to say that cost the Bills a Super Bowl appearance is totally untrue. We went 0 for 10 the last third down possession we had, and we scored 7 points. So, I was a convenient guy to blame, and even today, a Bills fan came on my Facebook page and said, Burrows, I still remember '89. I'm still mad at you. It's cool now. I mean, at my age today, I'm very much more equipped to handle that today than I was at that time. But I lost my temper. It shouldn't have never happened. But to say that cost us a Super Bowl appearance, that's totally, I think it's very unfair to me.
It's interesting there, and my heart listening to that, where a fan crosses that line on the Facebook of you cost, right? Like, it's a game at the end of the day, and I know it's people's livelihoods because they work and make money at playing football. But at the end of the day, it's a game. We talk about fighting in the stands, right? It's a game, and it's like, I don't come to your job and say that you stunk at your thing. And people have lives. They have kids. They have families. You're out, and that how people just come up. Maybe they come up to you in public and say, "Oh my God, you ruined." My heart breaks hearing that you've gone through that experience because that's.
Well, to be totally honest with you, it has happened, and I'm not talking about just once over. Since that happened, I couldn't tell you how many times that I've been confronted via social media or physically. When I ran into a Bills fan. So it's just part of it. You know what I mean? Fair or unfair, it's just part of it. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it now.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those scenarios, right? Whether it be athletes, whether it be musicians or entertainers, I think once you kind of cross that level, people feel as though they can take liberties. But you as an individual, you realize, okay, I'm going to do this. Here are the pros, here are the cons, right? And unfortunately, that is one of the cons. Speaking of one of the cons, and I don't want to gloss over it. Again, I am going to tell everybody, please get this book, right? It's Erased from History. Derek Burrows, Erased from History. You can get it at, again, Amazon. And Derek, where are there other places they can get it?
Or you can get it on Amazon currently right now, but
Okay.
it's easy to find. Just put Derek Burrows Erased from History and pop right up.
Yeah, definitely get it. It's a great read. One of the things that Stevie D and I talk about a lot on this show really kind of goes into just the financial aspect, right? When we talk about it, I'm pro player. Stevie D has started to come to my side of being pro.
I'm now on your side. I am on your side now. I was not for many years.
He's pro owner, right? But in as much as I'm pro player, I will tell you, early on, I had aspirations of going into sports entertainment law with the dream of being a sports agent. When I read your passage, that section there, talking about how you were basically recruited, right, to become a client of one of the agents that were out there. And Stevie D, when you talk about certain things breaking your heart, just the traps that are set so that they can entice these young guys that, like you said, getting that $1 million contract, right? Being in a position to kind of make the financial gains to be able to provide for a family, right? All these things are going through the head, aside from the cars and the jewelry and the women, all of that. And they preyed on you, right, to take advantage of you. It's just, it's amazing how they were able to get away with that, right? And I guess, this is where I'm really going. I'm hoping you can provide some insight in today's time when we look at these guys, because obviously the money is 20, 30, 40 times what it was, right? How does the league, or how can the younger generation coming out now, how can they be protected so that you don't have those vultures out there looking to prey on them?
Well, you're going to have vultures. Period. I don't give a damn what time it is. You had vultures back when I was playing, and you still have them. Now, the NFL has put in place some different measures now than they did then. Where you can't take all your money up front, like the guy at my age, it took 4 years of money up front. Mm-hmm. You can't do that anymore. Before I think I signed for 1.7 million, but before I played a down, half of that was already gone, and agent fees and all the other crooked things that he put me in. Mm-hmm. And then they have different seminars in place to help educate players better today than they did back when I came out on, financial literacy. Mm-hmm. So that they have improved some things to help players with financial literacy, and different symposiums to help them out with finances that they didn't have back when I was coming out.
So you have what I have noticed, and if we cross different sports, right? You have LeBron and Rich Paul, right? And that relationship is really based on a bond that they have together. Right. And you would assume, you would hope, right, that Rich Paul is really working in LeBron's best interest. And you've kind of seen some of the others that have not your prototypical type of agent that has gotten into it, right? You got Jay-Z and Rockefeller getting into it. Do you think that the new generation of kind of representation is driving out some of those that may have been crooked? I mean, you still have your well, I guess Lee Steinberger is gone, right? He's kind of retired from the game, but he was one of the big names. Tom Condon, another one from back in the day. I think he's kind of retired, right? They've made their billions, not just millions, Stevie D. They made their billions, and are kind of gone. But you start to see kind of the new generation taking over. Do you think that's driving out some of the bad apples there?
Well, first of all, I don't know what's bad and what's good apples now. I mean, mm-hmm. I don't know much about I don't know much about Jay-Z and Roc Nation. I don't know much about the agent business anymore.
Mhm.
However, I do admire the fact that LeBron James has surrounded himself around with people that he's been knowing all his life, and that's the very thing. Believe it or not, when I was coming out of college, that's the very thing that agents tried to get me to stay away from. Are the people I've been knowing all my life, and LeBron James is showing you that it does work,
Mhm.
because again, I don't know the ins and outs or the back doors, but he's a billionaire and he's still playing. So evidently, his agent has done something good for him. So agents have a way of cutting you off from everybody that they think you trust, and they want you to just trust them. And that's how the whole thing happens. Don't trust anybody except me. Don't put your money in any bank account except this one. Don't invest with nobody except this particular person. And there are measures in place to make sure that your money stays in his circle. So it's unfortunate that I had to go through that, but maybe me going through it, somebody will listen to me and say, hey, you know what? I heard Burroughs. He had a rough time. I'm not gonna be like Burroughs. I'm not gonna go through what Burroughs went through. So
Well, again, little breadcrumbs, little nuggets are being dropped out there. There are some stories, man, that in that book that people just disappearing, right? Hey, how you just gonna disappear on me like that?
yep.
Um,
You know, uh, I've met very few people in my life that came into my life from a financial point of view that has done what they said they were going to do. And I wrote in my book. It's ironic you asked me that. I wrote in my book that I went to college with a guy by the name of Ricky McReynolds. He was a Kappa. And Ricky and I, we just kind of knew each other from college. I admired him because he was a well-dressed Kappa, very well-spoken, and we just became friends. And one day, Ricky and I had graduated, and I ran back into him, and he had got into the financial planning and investments. And Ricky asked me to loan him or to invest $30,000 with his company because he was just starting. I think it was Dean Witter Reynolds. And he asked me to invest $30,000 with him. And to this day, Ricky McReynolds is the only guy that has ever took money from me and gave it back. Ever.
mm-hmm.
So when you talk about LeBron James and surrounding himself with his friends or people that care about it, I really think that if I'd have gave Ricky McReynolds a chance, he couldn't have been worse than the guys I chose.
True. True. What they
He
say.
could have been worse than the guys I chose.
True. So, all right, I kind of want to segue a little bit. Let's go back now a little bit, and we talked about the Cincinnati game, right? And you made reference to the Buffalo Bills, right? Only receiving a call that was prompted by Daryl Talley.
Right.
This gets to the part where it stings,
Yeah.
and it stings me, right? And if it stings me, I know 100 times more it stings you, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I'd like for us to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the Houston game. That was 1990, second game in 1990, right? So we're actually a full year removed from the Cincinnati game, right? Because that was the playoffs, and then that next year we lost to Cleveland in the playoffs, first round there, and then we get to where the run begins, right? Where it's four straight, but it's the second game of that year, and I'll let you talk about that one. If you're okay about talking about that.
You mean the day I got hurt, the injury?
Yes.
You know, it's yeah. I don't mind talking about it. You know, ironic, man. I was ducking my head earlier in the game, and Cornelius Bennett said, "Bruh, you got to keep your head up. Every time you tackle, you keep ducking your head." And I just kind of waved him off. And the next play I lined up, it was a quick slant. I could have just pulled off. I could have just went down and touched him. But for some reason, I ducked my head, and before I knew it, all I can see was all I could actually see was the referee out the corner of my eyes, and I'm paralyzed from my neck down. I'm gasping for air because my third and fourth vertebrae was damaged, so I can't breathe. So Vince, I'm thinking, I'm just about out of air.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking this is it for me, because I'm really trying to breathe, and it's getting emotional for me. But I really thought that I was getting ready to die because I could not breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think about was my mother. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just don't want my mother to see me like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Take your time.
I looked out the corner of my eye, and I can see the referee. And I just thought I was done. It was done for me. And, I don't know how I got on the stretcher. I can't remember that part. But I remember laying back underneath the Superdome. I think it was the Houston Superdome. And it just seemed like it was forever, and nobody came to see me. I was back there by myself. And I was just thinking, man, I must have been a terrible teammate for nobody to came and checked on me. I remember thinking this in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And time passed, and I'm still waiting on Bruce. I'm still waiting on Daryl. I'm still waiting on Cornelius.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody came, and the door opened, and I'm thinking to myself, finally, somebody is coming to check on me. Somebody from the Bills is checking on me, and it was Jerry Glanville, and he came in the room and he prayed for me, and he went out of the room, and I'm still thinking, where's my teammates? And the door opened again, and I'm saying it again, finally, it's one of my teammates. And it was Ernest Givens, the wide receiver for Houston, who at that time I absolutely couldn't stand. Why? I have no idea. He just was very cocky. And the guy that I couldn't stand and cocky came in and prayed for me. God teaches you lessons in different situations, bro. And he taught me one that day. That I said I hated this guy because he was so cocky. And he was the guy that came in and prayed for me that day. So it's amazing how God teaches you lessons,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will tell you, first of all, I don't think that story ever came out. And the first I heard of it was really reading the book, and I was saddened on so many levels, right? I was saddened by hearing the team that I love, right? The team that I've grown up, since yay high. I remember parents took me to opening day when they opened up Rich Stadium, right? Had the little souvenir coin in the whole nine, and following all the way through. And still, yeah, I love the team, but there's a way that I look at team, right? And Stevie D and I have talked about this before, where there are some organizations, and Stevie D, what they call them, assets, right? They talk about the players as just being assets, as if they're commodities that can be traded, and that there's no care, okay, and just move on, right? To have somebody almost lose their life, and we saw that just a few years ago with DeMar.
Mhm.
To have somebody almost lose their life for you, right? To help you, and from an owner perspective, to help put money in your pocket, right? So that those millions turn into billions. For you as the players, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, right?
Mhm.
So that you guys can get to that next level. It hurt, right? And I'm not the one who's hurt, but it hurt, and so I can only imagine, what's going through your mind, through all of that.
So Vince, let me stop you. I want to pick back up right there.
Mhm.
So I'm laying in the hospital in Houston, and I'm paralyzed from my neck down. And through the night, I could move a finger and start to move fingers, and somehow around 5, 6 in the morning, I could move all my extremities, and I could fly back. I can physically fly back to Buffalo. The next day, I have a press conference because they told me that, basically your career is over. All right. So the next day, Dr. Weiss came in and they said, Derek, you got to stop playing this. We can't take a chance on, blah blah blah. I get it, totally understand. Told me about spinal stenosis. What I did, I understood all of that. Stevie, what I did not understand is from that day, I have never heard from the Bills ever, ever. You've never called me to see how my surgery went. I had to have surgery on my neck later. You've never called me. You've never said, hey man, how your neck doing? Never. The first phone call I got from the Bills was the kid that I said last year, Jeremy.
Mhm.
And he just said, well, Daryl Talley told me to give you a call to check on you. It's been 30-something years. So all I'm saying is, man, I'm still a human being. I don't give a damn what collective bargaining agreement I was under. I'm still a human being.
So I have a question for you, right? If you follow the timeline, right? And again, I don't want to give away the book, and I feel as though I'm going to, right? But if you follow the timeline, you have the Cincinnati playoff game, right? Then you talk about your rookie contract expires, right? You talk about the negotiations for your rookie contract. And I'm not going to tell you, but you have to read the book. I'm not giving you that. I'm just giving you the timeline.
All right.
Then we have the injury, right? And then we have basically there's a separation, right, for a long time. You also go into trying to find benefits that were available. You had the workman's comp claim, right, where now all of a sudden benefits are made available to you.
Well, the first part of that is, so I think I was in between jobs or something like that, and my insurance hadn't kicked in. It wasn't like I didn't have it. It's just I was in between jobs, and my benefits hadn't kicked in, and I'm struggling. From my surgery, my fingers are twitching. I can't walk a straight line. I'm really, really in pain every day. I pick up the phone and I go on the internet and I see Bud Carpenter is still with the Bills. I said, I was okay with Bud. I thought Bud was okay with me. So I called Bud and I said, "Hey, Bud, how you doing? Derek Burrow." He said, "Hey, Derek, how you doing, man? What you been doing?" I said, "Hey, I'm doing pretty good." I said, "Except for this pain I'm having in my neck from this surgery." I said, I'm shaking. I hurt all the time. All I need is just a little help from the Bills with some type of medical help until my insurance kick in." He says, "Oh, okay, I'll call you right back." 5 minutes later, I get an email from my attorney saying, "Don't ever call the Bills again." They said, "Don't ever call them again."
Yeah. Now, okay. So we're still following this timeline and just getting hit dart after dart. But then you bring up the call you had with Jeremy Kelly, right? And granted, it took a little prodding from Daryl Talley to help get that done, right? But what I kind of notice, this is all going back to the Cincinnati game. They loved you up until Cincinnati, right?
You know, I don't know, but damn, I made a mistake, Vince.
Well, I'm not holding it against you.
But here's what I'm saying. Okay, I made a mistake, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're gonna hate me forever for that?
So do you?
Come on, Vince.
How do I put this out there? Do you think it was at the behest of Ralph Wilson?
I don't know. But Vince, regardless, you don't hate me forever for making a mistake. I'm struggling. I have no insurance. You can't. That is so inhuman, bro.
It is, and we see all types of owners, and I look at the current ownership with Terry Pagula, and I hear different things that it's that you hear some of the comparisons right now. Everybody loves Ralph because Ralph bought the team, brought it to Buffalo, and held it for what from the '60s all the way until his passing. So almost 50 years that he held the team, and then Pagula comes in and buys. But you hear some of the different changes. I look at that comparison. I also look around in the league, and there's the way that different owners handle things. Right, everybody wants to look at Jerry Jones, the way he handles things, but also you look on the other side. You look at Arthur Blank down in Atlanta, in the way that Arthur Blank handles things, and you start to think your situation. And the way everything has kind of just continued up to that point, you almost get a sense that it was a mandate coming from the top, right? And it's almost like that mandate was based off of a grudge because you thought that you were going to beat the Bengals and go play the 49ers in that Super Bowl. And when that didn't happen, we had to find the scapegoat. We had to find the person to blame.
I've been the scapegoat for years, Vince. I mean, did I screw up? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did it cost us the game? No.
Mm-hmm.
We went 0 for 10 on third downs and scored one touchdown. And how the hell did I cost us the game?
Sure.
I am not quiet. Vince will tell you. I talk. I got I just yap. Hearing this story, I am literally speechless as a human that somebody can be treated this way. It's mind blowing. I'm literally speechless. I'm sorry, Derek. I don't even know what to say because when I'm listening to your story, it's unbelievable that an organization that drafted you and you played for years and your teammates not talking to you and an organization just not helping a human being that has the means to do it and just shuns you. I'm speechless. I'm stunned.
So
Sorry.
do you think now, current date, because you said Jeremy Kelly, and he put you in contact with, I guess there is a setup in at Tulane University, right?
Yeah.
But do you believe, in your opinion, um, that now there's more being done, or why wasn't there enough being done throughout the league? Because for a lot of this, though, it's not just you, right? There's other ball players out there that weren't getting the support they needed, um, and now it seems like there are programs, but you almost have to find them, right? Because they're not. You're vested in the league, right? You played enough to be vested in the league. Do you not get a birthday card that says, "Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Derek"? If you need, go to Tulane, right? How is this information not out there for you guys?
Let me. I'm going to go back to the Jeremy Kelly thing. Um, so I got the call from Jeremy 30 something years later. And he said, man, I just called to check on you. Daryl Talley told me to give you a call. So Daryl Talley had never told you to give me a call. I would have never heard from the Bills. But let me just say this: it was God's grace that I did hear from Jeremy Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeremy, uh, I was telling Jeremy about the situation, and he started telling me about the different programs that the NFLPA had that you can go get medical help. Well, I got upset with Jeremy because I said, Jeremy, I didn't play for the NFLPA. I played for Buffalo. Why aren't you all helping me? Mm-hmm. Then I realized Jeremy, when Jeremy looks like he may be 35, 38 years old. He probably was a kid when I was playing. So I had to kind of catch myself. But he's the only person I've ever spoke to from the Bills in the last 30 something years. So I took Jeremy's advice and said, you know what, I'm going to go on the NFLPA website and find out the different, the different medical programs that Tulane University offers. So I drove down to New Orleans and started taking all these exams and tests, neurology and urology, and because I took Jeremy's advice, I found out that I had prostate cancer. If I had never taken Jeremy's advice, I wouldn't have never went to New Orleans, and I wouldn't have never found out that I had prostate cancer. So Jeremy Kelly, man, if you ever hear this, I know I was probably rude to you on the phone, but you saved my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do mention in the book talking about how you found out where you were and your status with prostate cancer, and almost used it as a PSA, right? And it's actually something that resonated with me. I didn't, by byproduct of, recently I had some blood work done, and that was the first thing I looked at. I'm remembering that I just read the pages from yours, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, right? It was a big sigh of relief. But, I say that to kind of endorse that PSA, right? Yeah. And to all the folks that are out here watching this podcast, listening to your story. Yeah. It's nothing to take for granted, right? And it could sneak up on you. And like you said, if you hadn't, you wouldn't have known.
Stevie, Vince, I had no signs other than me physically hurting every day from my neck and shoulders and my fingers. I had no signs whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And the doctor walks in, and in 5 minutes, he told me I had prostate cancer. And I argued with him. I said, Doc, I just came down because, I'm just here to, hang out in New Orleans for a couple of days. No, bro, you got prostate cancer. So I want to take this time to tell, particularly African-American men, prostate cancer is real, man. And it can be quiet, or it can go. You can go through. You got to catch it early, and by the grace of God, I caught it. They caught it early.
But your numbers were off the chart.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't because
Right.
again, after reading about yours, right?
Right.
I looked at the chart and I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
in there. And then I started to think about
Right.
how narrow it's 0 to 4.
Right.
And you were 27.
Mine was 27.
I was like, what?
And I had surgery within 3 months of that visit because I wanted to live. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't want to die.
So help us here from an awareness perspective. When you talk to the doctor to get more information, did they say, for young men, you should be tested at a certain age, and how frequently should people get tested, if you have that information?
Well, they did. You should get, at least once a year. And I get tested every 6 months now to make sure that my PSA level is still low. And thus far, since I've had surgery, it's still low. But I would suggest that, go get checked once a year, if not every 6 months, and check your PSA level to make sure it's between 1 and 4. Again, as Vince said, mine was 27. And so, I just urge all men, particularly African-American men, because prostate cancer is very prevalent in our community.
Yeah, for sure.
Wait, Vince, before you go on, it is wild, the story where all of a sudden Darryl Talley out of nowhere. When you talk about like divine intervention,
Yeah.
that Darryl Talley out of nowhere tells
my
Jerry
chapter, by the way.
that's and then you go right, and then something made you go, and you said,
Yeah.
I'm going to go check it out,
Right.
and you find out, and a life-saving visit.
And that's exactly how it happened.
Wow.
That's exactly how it happened.
Wow.
God is amazing, man.
Yes.
God is good.
So, first of all, Derek, thank you. I do appreciate you just spending the time here with us. I mean, we could go on and on and on, right? I enjoy it. Some of the stories have been a little down and somber, right? But also some good stories. And again, I encourage everybody to read the book. But I would be remiss if we did not talk about your family, and moreover, talk about the impact that your mother had on your life, right? Because basically, from first page to last page, she's mentioned there all the way through, right? And I can absolutely appreciate the relationship that I've had with my parents, with my mother, Stevie D. We talk, and the same that he has for his, but to listen to you talk about your mother, it's almost in glowing terms, right? And that just radiates from the page, right? As you talk about your mother. Part of it is, you could still hear the voice telling you, certain things, right? Of how you should either act or how you should proceed with certain things and the decisions that you make. You still hear that.
Yeah.
I know my father passed a long time ago. I still hear my father, right? And I think about it. But, just to, again, tell us about, if you can, the relationship that you have with your mother, as well as the rest of your family. You came from a big family.
Yeah, I did.
So
I came from a very close-knit family. We didn't have a whole lot, but we were very close. And my admiration came from, watching my mother, work her butt off with 10 kids, welfare, food stamps, whatever, whatever she could do. She was a soldier about it, and everything I ever wanted to do, I wanted to do it for my mother because I watched her struggle so much. And
Take,
so,
take your time.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's. I think when you read the book, you can truly appreciate um, just where and how far you have come, and it's because you had that rock, that support, and somebody that you looked up to, that you admired, that you wanted to always be the best for. You talk about whether it be going to games, right? You talk about wanting to purchase the house, right? To just all of that, and it flows. And I'm not giving anything away. It flows from page one to the last page. It really does, and again, that's character, man. It really is. That's all about character, and about the family, and the closest that you have with your family. I'm not giving away any other nuggets. I promise I'm not going to do that. I want people to buy this book. If I could ever try to help promote the book, I want people to go out there and get that book. It is a great read.
Well, and I want to say that, we've talked about a lot of Buffalo Bills stuff, but it's not a book about bashing the Buffalo Bills.
Mhm.
This is a book that chronicles my journey from elementary school to now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one chapter that even, talks about, the Bills that's NFL growing pains.
Mm.
So I want Bills fans to know that it's not a book that about bashing the Bills. Um, so um, you can go out and purchase the book and read it, I think when you read it from front to back, you'll see why I call the book Erased from History.
Yeah. So I just want to say this in closing, and we kind of talked about it. And again, I think I mentioned this, that truly I'm a firm believer that everything in life happens for a reason, right? And that no matter how small or how big what happens in our past, it prepares us for the next day's journey, right? We learn from that, we grow from that, we mature every single day, right? Or at least we hope what some people do. Right? There's some people that just keep making the same thing, right? Yeah, but for most of us, um, but when I read the book, or when I read the book, and I went through, and it chronicled all the different decisions, right? Whether it be the athletic decisions, whether it be where you chose to go to school first, and then right to make the next decision there, whether it be your business adventures, right? Just to where you are now as the athletic director. And again, I'm going to say this: I'm not dropping any other Easter eggs, but that in itself was a journey, right? Opportunities, short as they may be, right? But bringing you back and having those opportunities there. Um, but more than anything, Derek, I'm a firm believer, right? I'm not trying to be cliched where, you say children are our future, but they are, right? They are. As we grow as a community, or as a society, as a country, as a society, what we are doing is laying the foundation for the next generation. And you always hear you want them to be better than what we were, right? And the folks, the kids, the parents, the siblings, they all can draw that inspiration from you, they can, right? Especially back in some of the cities, whether it be your hometown or whether it be in Memphis, right? They certainly can draw that from you, right? And you talked about making decisions, right? And sometimes those decisions are not just on the ball field, but they're in everyday life,
Yeah.
right? And so they can go back and they can think about that, and it's for that, in my opinion, and I will say it again, that history has not been erased, but it's made a stamp on the communities, on the generations of young men, young women who are growing in this world, and then for them to kind of pass that torch. But it's starting with you as you've kind of been able to mentor and to help guide them through good and bad, right? Again, I go back to, like you said, here's a video of what not to do. You have to keep your composure, right? And things of that sort. So um, I do thank you. This time has been really great for us. I could go on and on and on, right? I see we had uh, Demetrius Virgos, who was chatting, to the side. We grew up together, right? We grew up following you guys, right? Yeah, I've told stories. I was telling Stevie D before you came on. Um, I remember when you were drafted, right? Because I had a vision, like I was a GM at 12 or 13. Mind you, I had a vision of what I wanted my defense to look like. And you were part of that, right? Because I wanted the bigger defensive back with speed that could take on these wide receivers. I didn't want the little 5'7", 5'8" guy, right? No, I wanted somebody big and physical and go out there and dominate. I had Nate. Nate was smaller, but Nate was stocky, right? So Nate wasn't going to let you get off the line either. I had my corners, right? And I was very happy to have had you as a Buffalo Bill, and then to be able to see you and to connect and to be able to read the book. It really has been kind of a full circle here, right? And I so do appreciate you being on. Again, I wish Lane College the best, except for when they play Morehouse.
There you go.
All right. SIAC, right? We could be all about the SIAC. By the way, are you Greek?
I am.
What did you go? Oh, here we go. Man, I thought we were like that going. Yeah, here we go.
I am.
All right. Well, I can still respect that.
So, guys, listen. I wanna thank you guys for allowing me to come on this platform and just talk a little bit about Erase from History. But it's really kind of talking about Derek Burrows, period. A lot of people don't know a lot of things that's in this book, and I just want to encourage. I never had an opportunity to tell my story because I didn't talk to the media when I was in Buffalo. They wrote the narrative themselves that I was a bad guy, or I was a thug, or I didn't have discipline. I made a mistake, and it happens. Before I go, I want to say this: that I remember the night DeMar Hamlin got hurt, and man, I was shedding tears like it was me because I was reliving me getting hurt all back over again. So, I got on my knees and I said a prayer. And I don't know if I said a prayer for him or me. But the last thing I said was, God, if I hope one day that he may need medical attention 10 or 15 years down the road, please don't let him go through what I've been through, with the Bills. But it's hard not to be sore about it. Even all these years later, it's hard not to be sore. But again, I want to appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on your podcast and open up a little bit about my career and open up a little bit about Erase from History.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you now, you have an open invite anytime you want to come on. We'd love to have you. I'd love to pick your brain just about the game itself, right? To kind of bring some of that knowledge because we get in debates about certain things, and let me ask you this question because we had a former podcast. I don't know. He was short term. I may have to send you a clip from what he did way back in the day. But, so we were going back and forth, and he was a little bit upset about the whole jersey swaps that happen now at the end of games, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about how players should not like other players,
Right.
on other teams.
Right.
And my argument to that was when the game ends, for the most part, it's like a fraternity. It's a brotherhood, right? You got these guys that are represented by the same agents. They work out together.
Right.
Now you have free agency. And, we could go against each other for 60 minutes in 2023, and in 2024, we're locker mates, right? So it's just there's not that level of animosity. It's still only during that 60 minutes when you're going at each other because somebody's trying to be the alpha.
Well, let me ask you a question. Was that particular person, was he a former player?
No.
That's probably why he felt that way. And let me just say this. Just think about, all the Alabama guys in the pros, and they go to their different teams.
Mm-hmm.
They still have a camaraderie, whether you play for somebody or not. I still have love for you, whether you play for Denver or so, all the guys I played with at Memphis, Tim Harris, David Brandon, we couldn't wait to get to each other after the game. So to say I dislike you because you play with another team, that's unrealistic.
Yeah, I think it's the fan mentality as opposed.
Yeah, it is. That's a fan mentality. That's why I asked you if he played, and if he didn't, it was fine. If he did, it was fine. But a guy that has played wouldn't feel that way because you create bonds. Your bonds run deeper than we can go to war. We can go to war all day, but when the game is over, bro, I love you. So I don't adapt that feeling, but that's the one thing that I miss the most, just the camaraderie with the players.
Sure.
It's not the money, it's not the cars, it's not the houses, none of that. It's just, breaking the huddle and, looking at Bennett on one side and Tally on the other, Bruce Smith, or, me and Nate talking all the time, So I miss that, man, even all these years later.
Yeah.
Delich and I, we probably talk more than anybody. We talk a lot via phone. We both live in Atlanta. So I miss relationships with those guys.
Absolutely.
Everybody's doing their own thing now. Everybody has gotten older and kind of on their own thing. But I wish I could run it back just one more time.
For sure. Well, listen, again, thank you so much.
If I can,
Go ahead.
I want to thank you. Vince, you did a great job. I was in awe just listening to your story and tell it from your words about your book. It's an amazing story that you have, your resiliency and how you bounce back time and time with everything that's happened through your career, and now the impact you're making at the college level for all these young people. It's a great story. I reiterate everything you talked about. Derek Burrows, A Race from History. I know I've been promoting it on the Jet site as well because it now, Vince was telling me about I haven't read the book yet, but Vince was telling me about it, and now listening it from you, it truly is an incredible story. You're an incredible human being, and I just, from the bottom of my heart and from our folks at OW Sports and all the folks that watch us every week, just thank you for coming on to tell your story. It got very personal.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Vin. My eyes.
Yeah, mine too. Every time I talk about, when I talk about it, it always gets personal. But I never want it to, but it always gets personal, man. Always.
And I just thank you for sharing the feelings
Yeah.
that you have. I mean, that's the hardest thing, right? Especially in guys, we always hold things in,
Yeah.
and it's great to see that you open up and tell the tough and talk about the tough things that need to be talked about. And I wish you all the best. Obviously, Vince said it the best. You're welcome to come on, chop it up anytime, talk football, and get your perspectives on the game of football today. And so, from me to you, and thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Derek. We will definitely stay in touch, and I appreciate it. Well said, CBD.
Yeah.
All right. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That was awesome. I just it's I was in awe listening to his story. I'm going to go buy the book. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm going to go buy the book because I got to read
Yeah.
it now without a doubt. And these are not. I mean, this is a real world story. I know he talked about not having hatred, or for the Buffalo Bills. It's just an unbelievable story that a team could do that to another human being. It's disappointing. And
so here's one other thing, though, and I'm not trying to diminish the Buffalo Bills because I truly believe that they let him down, and I do believe, again, if I follow that timeline, I do believe that it was Ralph Wilson that was orchestrating this because of what happened in Cincinnati. But moreover, I have a problem with the Players Association because he mentioned that Jeremy Kelly told him about what the Players Association has available for them. Why is it that the Players Association is not looking out for these players that are playing the game? That's their job.
Right. Do you remember Sean when he came on and we were talking about the concussion lawsuit? There's a disconnect between the NFLPA and retired players. I mean, Sean talked about how him and his network were trying to reach out to people that tell them about the lawsuit because players didn't know they had these. So what Jeremy was telling him to go do is that was from the concussion lawsuit. It had to be because Daryl knew about Derek's condition and saying go get tested because I remember Sean talking about reaching out to players because the attorneys only had an email address. Who knows if people are checking an email address? They didn't call them, right? They were going based off of some email they had in a database from way back when, and players had no clue. And so it's embarrassing. You're talking about a shield that's $7 to $9 billion a year in revenue, and this is what it does to the former players that built it, especially Derek. When you think about in the '80s, right? The NFL's not what it is today. His generation built the platform that is now what it is today, and we've forgotten about players from yesteryear, and it's really horrible.
You are absolutely right, Craig. You are. But what happens is that when the player is done, the agent is done, right? And it shouldn't go that way. I just paid, just like you said, I paid this guy up front, right? But that should be a lifetime warranty, right? So not only during the 4 years or 8 years of my career or whatever it may be, there should be some level of responsibility. But I encourage everybody. Here's the book again. I encourage everybody. There's the book.
Yeah, you got
Erase from history. I encourage everybody to go read it. He is right, right? There really is just a few pages dedicated to the Buffalo Bills, right? So it's not a Buffalo Bills book. It's a Derek Burrows book. But in as much as it's a Derek Burrows book, think about how many other players that haven't told their story that really he's telling their story through him, right? Again, that's why it's not erased from history. And I get you have to read the book, and I get why he gave it that title. But what he has been doing is just it really has a widespread impact.
Well, I mean, the name of the book is really what happened from high school to college to what happened in the pros, right? Not post-pro career per se, because he's had such an influence on the youth of America, right? And honestly, I give him so much credit for writing the book. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, write a book," but I give him credit for writing the book and really telling your feelings. It's not an easy thing to do. I know for me, I'm not a feelings guy. I don't know if I could write a book about my feelings and have it out there for everybody to see, right? It's good for him that he wrote the book. I'm glad he wrote the book because people, when you read the book, you're going to learn from the book.
Yeah.
And you're talking about having a lasting impact for people. It's a great story.
All right, DeCola, you're killing me. Well, first, before I say you're killing me, again, it was an absolute pleasure to have him on, and we welcome, open arms. Come on in, knock at the door. We'll leave the light on for you. You're always welcome on OW Sports Podcast. Now, DeCola, you're killing me because now I have this thing in the background, and as you talk, I'm looking at Mizzou versus UMass, Alabama, South Carolina, and it was the Alabama, South Carolina one that had me, because that's not South Carolina's logo. What am I looking at? So I see you got a new toy back there.
Yeah, I got a new toy, and I was going to tell the company it's called Glance LED, and I told the company I ordered it for the podcast. I wanted to have a ticker to talk about sports. We're talking about sports. Have the ticker in the background. It's a really cool device. They're just getting better and better. They're going through Kickstart to come up with the next gen of the device. And I don't know. I like it. It's cool. And as we do our podcast, as different sports come around, we'll have the different games from basketball to hockey, and going as we're going, we can catch the score right there behind us.
And you got the betting line. So we're about to branch off into OW Sports, the gambling site, right? So we'll talk about 3 and a hook. You're gonna lay the money line. I know none of that, Stevie D.
Hey, look, if you got a man cave, right? If you have a man cave, this is a pretty cool thing to have up on a wall somewhere with your TVs and build out your man cave. So, but anyway. Glance LED is the name of the company.
So there he goes. You open the door and here he comes kicking it in. Craig talking about Omega Sci-Fi. I saw that whole thing, Craig. I didn't hear you talk about 1906, but we won't go there. This is not a time or a place for that.
Bitch, you better be careful because his son may come find you. And I'm just saying, we saw a picture of his son. That's a big dude.
It is. It is. All right. We've had a long show, and obviously this is the week of the matchups, and it's just my luck. You guys find a way to do it, right? Last year it was, we're going to run Aaron Rodgers out, night game, come out with the flag. All the fireworks and all the hoopla. Yes, Rodgers goes down, but, you had the scene and you had the environment. This year, what do we got? Oh, wait, there may not be anything. Oh, hold on. You decide you're going to fire your coach. We all know what that does. All 53 guys in there now are going to be a little bit more amped up, a little bit more juiced up like they were before, and I have to deal with a coach that wants to just squander any chance of a victory. It says he takes accountability. Well, you should have taken accountability for the last 7 years. You keep doing the same thing. And I got to go against this. Thanks, DeCola.
I can't help it. My owner just waited too long. I mean, what do you want from me?
That was our whole conversation yesterday. And literally, and for people that are watching, you guys know that Stevie D and I talk all the time. We have a conversation yesterday, like Saleh needs to go, right? If I were Woody, I would just go ahead and fire him. That's what I said. You said, yeah, I'd hire Ulbrich as the replacement coach. And I was like, no, I did. And I was like, no, that's a good move. And I would keep Hackett, and he could learn from him. And I either Woody was tapping our phone calls, or you got a hotline in and said, Woody, I was talking to my boy Vince, and this is what needs to happen now, right? Enough of playing games. Robert's got to go. Bring Ulbrich in there and keep Hackett.
Well, I think we're both pretty in tune with our franchises. I think we watch the team enough. We understand the franchise. We understand things, and I think we both have been very fortunate on the from draft day, right? Picking certain players in the first round, right? Just to understanding our franchise. So it's funny that we talked about it yesterday. Do I think Ulbrich was the most sensible choice? Although with Rodgers, you never know. It could have been Hackett named the head coach, but I think there would have been an uprising, and I think Fulham Park would have been burned down if Hackett was named head coach. But the work is not done, right? That's step one, right? Saleh. I know, Craig, you mentioned about Rodgers. No. I've been watching a lot of the All 22 film. This goes well beyond Rodgers. The offensive line, I don't know what they're blocking, and they missed assignments up front. It's bad. I look at the offensive line coach and Keith Carter. He's got to go. He was a questionable hire to begin with, coming from Tennessee when he got fired. His first year in the job, he stunk. The offensive lineman, Garwell, everybody came out and said, this guy stinks. I mean, they literally said it. No, but we kept him, right? So he's got to go. I mean, look, Hackett, I think he's ultimately what's going to happen is he's going to be like the glorified Word boy for Aaron Rodgers, right? I do believe that at some point, maybe not this week, but I can see Todd Downing, who they hired to bring in to help Hackett, the play calling will be turned over to him. He was the offensive coordinator with Tennessee. I don't know what the Jets love with Tennessee, with Keith Carter and then Todd Downing, but I could see a shift there with the play calling. I just don't know if you can do that right now. I think Todd starts game planning for the following week after Buffalo, and I think this week it is what it is this week.
Aaron's doing the game planning for Buffalo this week?
No, let me tell you something. Aaron Rodgers, people don't believe it. Aaron Rodgers doesn't call the plays. He does not call the plays. It is Paul Hackett. Oh, my God, his father. Oof, that brought back painful memories. I think a twitch now I got going on when I said Paul. But Nathaniel Hackett, he's calling the plays. He's giving them 2 plays. Again, communication's a problem. You've seen Aaron Rodgers telling the bench to speed up the play call. So I think Paul is going to take a second fiddle there and be Aaron's ego guy to keep his, hey, Aaron, you're doing great, Aaron. But he's not going to be doing the play calling. They can't move on from Hackett because it's going to upset the apple tree from getting rid of him. I think he's going to get reassigned.
So here's the question. I know what I think. How did this go down? Did Woody call Aaron and say we're going to make this change? Did Aaron find out by way of?
I think we all want to know that one, right? Because what was it? I mean, think about it, right? We always talk about where there's smoke, there's fire, right? The push around the world. That was awkward. Then they're trying to talk about, well, he's a 2-tap guy. He's a fist bump. Is he a hugger? Dude, what? First of all, you were around him all last year, so you would have flushed that out last year. right? Everybody's got a handshake and all that. You know what your head coach likes, right? That was just awkward. I don't want to hear about, I gave you a 2-score lead. I don't want to hear that, right? Um, at the end of the Denver game, in that press conference, clearly they're not on the same page of what a cadence is. And Aaron clearly saying accountability is a problem, right? And then this past week, Quincy Williams can't even do the interview with the lady because he's so upset and talking about accountability that people have to have accountability around here. That was like the dagger to me because you have multiple people saying the same word.
But hold on. Let me ask you this question. In fairness, I absolutely agree with you about accountability, right? You brought it up to Derek Burrows talking about accountability, 100%, right? It's something that we live by, right, in our day jobs. But when we talk about accountability, does Aaron Rodgers hold himself accountable? Did Aaron Rodgers step up to the microphone and say,
Yeah.
"You got to put this"? He said, "You have to put the loss on my shoulders."
I stunk. I had 3 turnovers. I stunk. I have to be better.
And he's the reason for the loss?
I don't know if he said he was the reason, but he talked about how bad his performance was on what he needs to be better at. He said he was not a good thrower of the ball. I did not make good decisions, right? And he didn't blame anybody else for that loss. He talked about his own performance, right? So
absolutely. Yeah, Craig. They got some out there. So the reason why I asked that, right, is because you can talk the talk, right? You can say accountability. It's a great buzzword, right? People, you hear it. But when it comes down to it, right, when the rubber meets the road, do you truly mean that?
Well, saying it in front of a camera and truly meaning it are two different things, right? Maybe you're playing to the camera, but behind the scenes, right? Maybe there's something else, right? You asked me, what did he say, right? And that's what he said in front of the cameras. Now, what he's thinking behind the scenes,
right? Like if Woody calls him, right? If Woody says, "Hey, Aaron, I'm thinking about making a change," because we know that Woody really likes Aaron, right? So we know this. I'm thinking about making a change. Does he say, this probably isn't the best week because honestly, it's on me? Did he say that to Woody? Now we don't know.
I don't think Woody called him. I don't think. No,
I
no
do.
one really do. Know what I think?
I do.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think Woody is in tune with the fan base a little bit too much, and the noise this week was beyond deafening, calling for his job.
But Aaron, he got his guy. He got his toy. You don't think he's trying to placate and cater?
I don't know about that. I mean, it could be. I can't say no to it, right?
So if Devontae Adams comes your way, are you going to say that was an Aaron Rodgers choice?
Oh, I think it's an Aaron Rodgers choice, and here's my take on it. I think it absolutely needs to happen, not for the reasons why people think. Our receivers are not in sync with what Aaron Rodgers likes to do. I don't care that Garrett Wilson had 13 catches. They're not in sync. Okay.
How many targets did he have?
16.
20.
He had 20 targets, 13 catches.
20 targets.
Right, but they're not in sync. They're not in sync. That go route, not in sync. And I for whatever reason, when we do checks, we're not in sync. And I think one of the reasons why Allen Lazard has gotten so many targets is because Aaron trusts that he's going to be where he needs to be. Now, Allen has trouble catching the football, right? He had 3 drops.
So how do you get in sync?
How do you get in sync? Practice, right? You doing the extra time, doing the OT. Is it being done? Is it not being done? But I can tell you right now, if you're trying to save the season,
but hold
that's
on.
the guy you got to go get, and hopefully they get into a rhythm because
I don't want you to take this as a bashing of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not a fan. Never was a fan, even at Green Bay. Never was a fan. But not a bashing. But if you are going to, not you, Stevie D, but if you are going to put him on Mount Rushmore, if you were going to say that you are a Hall of Fame type quarterback, you're one of the greatest. What we have all seen in the past from the greatest is that they make their teammates better.
Yeah.
If you are telling me that you are not in sync, and I say, how do you get in sync? You say practice, right? If you are the true leader and not the egotistical mega mind, right? Then you're saying Wilson, Lazard, Conklin, Williams, Gibson, right? We're all staying for an extra hour. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Because what we did on Sunday isn't working. And I'm going to do that week in and week out. And I'm going to point out Lazard and say, you see how when I do this and I look at him, how he's able to go because he's able to read that?
Right.
Garrett Wilson, you're a good enough receiver to do that. Mike Williams, you've been in the league. Get it. The following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to do that. That's the true leader. That's taking accountability.
Yeah, look, and in fairness, the opposite of the Aaron Rodgers criticism right there, that I'm not saying is not worthy of talking about. He's had 5 games with an offensive line, running backs, and wide receivers. He's had 5 games. Tom Brady was 6-5 in Tampa.
Okay.
And everybody's saying, oh, what's going on here? It's not working in Tampa. And they made adjustments, and then they went on the run. So in fairness to Aaron Rodgers and all the receivers, it's been 5 games.
But you just said to us that they're not in sync, and I say, how do they get in sync? It doesn't matter about the 5 games. How do they get in sync?
Look, I'm not a coach. I can't tell you that. I don't know what NFL players do to get in sync. Is it watching film? Is it going out to dinner and just talking about things?
Sure.
Right? I can't answer that. You're asking me questions.
But
I can't answer.
I guess, is he doing that?
Oh,
Right?
I have no idea.
Right.
No, I don't. My honest opinion, I don't think it's being done. I
don't either. I see, and again, maybe this comes from my bias, not as a Jet. My bias is him as a Packer, right? I did not like him with the Packers. I just thought he's too egotistical. These dark retreats, whatever he's doing off, he wants to be different, right? And yeah, Brett Favre treated you bad and kind of left you on the bench and left you hanging. But then you do the exact same thing to Jordan Love, right? It just, that's the stuff that always rubbed me the wrong way. But in fairness, you lost last year because of the injury, right? And I don't know what stipulations there were about you being around the team, not being around the team. I don't know how much you were around the team. I think that you would point out, hey, he's going to be here for this game on the sideline. But were you there?
He was not there during the week because he was in the rehab in California, because the doctor that he chose to use only does the rehab in California. So he had to be there for that. And then he would come in on Saturday to be there Saturday and Sunday for the game, and then go back to do the rehab Monday through Friday, or Monday through Friday, and then leave Saturday. So
fair enough, right?
Was he on Zoom calls? I couldn't tell you. Was he on Zoom calls? Right? If you had time to be on Zoom call with Pat McAfee on Tuesdays,
right?
Right? Do you have time to be in the quarterback room via Zoom? I couldn't tell if he wasn't working.
After week 17, if you realize your window is getting smaller and smaller, these are just the things. When I hear players talk about accountability, right? No matter who they are, no matter what team, I hear you, but your actions speak louder than the words. And we have seen some of the greats, the Kobe Bryants of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, the LeBrons of the world, right? I've used some basketball, the Tom Bradys of the world. We have seen the Peyton Mannings of the world. I can't believe I put that name in there. And you didn't stop me. But we have seen them, right? And they talk about, especially in their post-career, I guess LeBron hasn't had it, but in their post-career kind of documentaries, they have talked about the amount of work that they put in season and off season. And that's what really made them great. And that's how they challenge certain players. And you hear players you hear Edelman because he's on his podcast all the time talking, right, about the things that he hated about TB12, right? But he challenged him to make him better. All of that, I say, again, I go back to the guy. Yes, he's wearing your green, but way back before he was wearing your green, that's the guy that really just bugged me. And now I hear him say accountability, but are you holding yourself accountable as that leader?
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out Monday night against Buffalo. If the team comes out with energy,
that game doesn't count. You guys will win. You guys will win. It's 2 games after that.
Hear me out. It's not a guarantee that we're beating Buffalo. You can have your opinions, and that's fine. These are my opinions. Okay, my opinions are: if the team comes out ready to play, then they're on board with Salah. If they come out and are flat, I don't know if they're happy that Salah's gone. And maybe there's a bigger, deeper rooted problem in here, right? Because I hear what you're saying as far as being.
Wait, you're saying they're on board with the Salah. You said when they're on board with Salah, they're on board with Salah being fired.
Getting fired if they come out ready to play and they're fixing issues. If the offense is all of a sudden a different offensive team, then I'm saying, okay, maybe Salah was really the problem. I hear what you're saying because most teams, when there's a change, you think there's an energy infused. What I don't know from the players, are they happy about this change? Are they truly happy about this change? I don't know. Maybe the players look at it as this should have been Hackett, not Salah, right? We don't know. We don't know if the players, because nobody's been interviewed. No players have come out and talked. Aaron Rodgers moved his appearance to tomorrow on the Pat McAfee show. Not that he's going to give out any nuggets of what's really happening there. Of course, he's going to toe the company line. Oh, I was shocked just like anybody else. Meanwhile, he's probably saying, got him, baby. You think you're going to show me up, right? But, I don't know from that perspective of are they happy or are they not happy? And I think it's about an energy level. And it's not about Buffalo. I'm looking to see if there's an extra pump, extra juice in their step, or they're not. And when the team checks out, I'm not saying this team is checking out, right? I don't want Jet fans to think, oh, this guy's nuts. But you're trying to read through the tea leaves because it's all a guessing game, right? Everything gets overanalyzed, right? I think they call it overreaction Mondays, right? After every game, it's overreaction Monday because the fans are so passionate. I'm going to be like, ooh, wait a minute, that guy did that. Is that because, right? Because you're just going to overanalyze it. And truly, I don't know if we'll ever know other than if the Jets go on a winning streak and play where I think the Jets feel that they can play at the level that they can play at, and maybe the fans what they expect the level they should be playing at. So if they go on that run, right, does it look out and say, yeah, Salah was the problem?
I wonder, there's all these stat guys out there. There has to be a stat on teams that fire their coach mid-season, what they do the week after, right? Or what they do. Because we saw the Raiders, they did it.
Raiders are the only team to make the playoffs on a coaching change. Bertaccio.
Well, no. I'm not talking about the playoffs. I'm just talking about the next game. Right? Antonio Pierce came in, and they were so excited about Antonio Pierce, right? He's still there. We're not even 4 games in. Crosby wants out. Adams wants out.
I think that's made up about Crosby. I haven't heard that from any real good sources. So I don't know how true that is. It's sometimes people create a thing and then it runs with it and everybody's running. I haven't heard the maxing that he wants it out. Devontae wants out and I have problems. Now you're not just play the football game, right? Last year you were happy when they made the coaching change, and now all of a sudden because you're not getting 15 targets a game, you want out, and now you're going to try and play this card as we want to be traded, and he wants to be paired with Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers. I got issues with that. What are you saying to your team? I don't know. I'm not like again. If he was traded to the Jets, it's a weapon for us. We need everything we can get. I just don't like that aspect of it. not good. But again, Robert Sala's firing. If you look at the numbers, 20-36 in 3+ years, only coach in NFL history to have 3 straight 10-loss seasons to hold their job. That doesn't happen. You have been outscored 237 points in the first half of games in your tenure. That's ridiculous. Minus 237. You're 60 more penalties than your opponents in that time frame. Right, and it's your winning percentage is right. We talked about the win-loss records. It's just all these stats that compile, just right off the bat, so you're fired. Why aren't you fired at the end?
That I don't see what's wrong with that. That's the building of a foundation. Why
Trust the process is not working.
No, it is. It was working.
Yeah, I know you want to keep him for selfish reasons. I understand. I understand.
I did.
You're killing me over here.
But what are you doing? You want to win? Is that what you're trying to do?
Take away the Jets in the division, in the conference. He should have been fired at the end of year 3. You said he should have been fired after year 1.
But I always changed it. Remember, I would say, yeah, he needs to be fired. Wait a minute.
That's what I said. You got to cover the logo. We're not in your conference, right? So it doesn't, right? What's the old saying? As long as your interests don't conflict with my interests, I'm good, right? But pretend that your interests are not there, right? And it's something else, right? His coaching deserved for him to be fired. I think he showed that he was not into the offensive side of the ball. He was not a coach of all players. He was more focused on the defensive players. He acted like a high school coach or a young college coach that every time a play was made, he had to run on the field. One of the examples I said immediately after last year's week 1 on the punt return for a touchdown, he's running in the pile like he did something. No, you let your players celebrate. They went to battle for 60 minutes. Let them celebrate. You high-five your coaches and go meet the other coach in the center field. Say, hey, nice game. We'll see you later in the year. Right? Don't act like a clown. But he did that all the time. If somebody made a big play, he's running out the field to go with the defensive players. No. That's for the players to do. You're not a player. You never were. Right? Don't act like – be the head coach. Be the leader of the team. Mm-hmm. Stop trying to be a friend or whatever you want to call it. So I struggled with that a lot. With that behavior. And so at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to get that with Jeff Ulbrich. I think he's going to be a serious kind of guy. And I'm really curious to see what he brings to this Jet team and how he's going to challenge players, because his press conference said a lot of things that I think hit Jet fans at the heart, and saying if Saleh did what he talked about, maybe Saleh's tenure would have been different.
I just hope that Ulbrich brings the passion for timeouts. If he shows that, you'll know that you have a 10-year vested head coach. If he's like, timeouts are what matter to me, whether I use them or not, right? It's how I hold on to my timeouts. You'll have a winner. Somehow I got to bring you back, because you guys let me down, right? You guys let me down. I thought we were going to have a re-up, right? Renegotiate, get a contract extension. Yeah, all that was in the works. No.
But the silly part about it, you almost got your wish. I mean, if the field goal kicker makes the field goal and Aaron doesn't throw his 3rd interception of the game, the Jets are 4-1, right? A horrible 4-1, because you barely would have beaten the Broncos and you barely, beat the Vikings, but it didn't happen. You're 2-3. And you lose.
I blame Rodgers for that one. More why I don't like Rodgers. He's the one, Alex. Hey, Alex.
Hey, not for nothing, Alex. Where is our invite to that party? Not for nothing, right? We didn't give the invite to the party. Just saying. Up with that. We'll let it slide this time, but next time we expect formal invitations. To the Alex Invitational. Very nice.
Yeah, well,
yeah. Here we go. AFC. What do we got here? Bills at number 4. Oh, look at the Jets at number 8. just on the outside looking in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, every time that goes through, I think of. Anyways, it was great. Sean McDermott, I think, may have called Woody Johnson because Sean did not want us to talk about just another fine coaching debacle that he had. And we spent the time talking about Robert Saleh. So somehow he got off of that. But I am still, every show, what I say I'm going to say, Stevie D.
Fire Sean McDermott.
Thank you. Fire Sean McDermott. I am saying that. The Jets have given you the blueprint. Only problem is Bobby Babbitt can't go in there, and we know Joe Brady can't go in there. So I don't know where we go, and thus
we had the guts to do it. We had the guts to do it.
They when Leslie was there, he had head coaching experience, and we can't do it with these guys. So
if you go to Joe Brady, who would you be your offensive coordinator? Would you expect him as a first time to then run? I mean, because I know Olberg's going to be running the defense most likely.
I don't know. I don't know. So all right, we play this week. We play on Monday night. It's another night game. Enough of these night games, man. Rapid reaction at 1 a.m. and rapid reaction is either going to be, see, I told you Sean McDermott needs to be fired because another dumb coaching move, or Stevie D is going to be like, if we're going to play like that, you might as well have kept Robert Saleh. You're going to get one or the other, right? So we might as well pre-record it, right? We'll have two versions. We'll just let it go. Alex and Craig, Dimitri, Rob, Joey, all you guys will be commenting, but it'll be a pre-recorded video because it's either going to be one or the other. You're not going to have a great game. You're just not, right? Either one team is going to be good and the other one is not, or the other one is, so I don't wish you luck. But then again, maybe if I lose 3 in a row, maybe Terry will start being like, hey, Woody, what did it take for you to make that move? Right? I'm thinking about doing something. So maybe that's what it takes. Imagine that. Imagine this. The 2 leaders in the AFC East fired their coaches in back-to-back weeks while the 2 bottom feeders are sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. How about that?
That would be funny.
Yeah. So let's just see. Ooh, in North Carolina, if Milton decides to change his course and gets a little stronger, Alex, I'll be calling you. I will definitely be calling you. Yes. Well, actually, you just asked. Safe. I am not in a flood zone. I'm in a non-evac zone. Doesn't mean that power. So hey, I've taken all the precautions I can. I was trying to fly Stevie D in to help me board up some windows. All of a sudden, he said his back was bothering him. Yeah, where did this come from? Right. So
I moved the wrong way. Oh man.
And you are right on that. So I'm going to tell you this now, Alex. I will not put up the last one. There is no way I want that guy. No, Stevie D. No. He can go coach somewhere else. All right, so that's going to wrap this one up. Again, we really want to say thank you to Derek Burrows for coming on. He spent a long time with us. I didn't think it was going to be that long, right? But I really enjoyed it, right? And I think he did as well. I don't want to speak for him, but I think he did as well. And he just felt open and free to tell his story. And that was cool.
I'm not going to lie, my eyes welled. It's an unbelievable story that how people just in his hometown. How doesn't his high school recognize him as a pro football player and have something like that? It's mind blowing.
And I'm not gonna lie, it so reminded me of Married with Children, where he's like, "Yeah, they got names of guys up there that haven't done anything, haven't gone anywhere." Right? That's Al Bundy, Polk High School,
Right.
4 touchdowns.
Touchdowns.
He's right on the wall. Right? Meanwhile, you got a guy that's the number 1 pick in the NFL, and you don't mention anything. Stevie D, actually, I'm glad you said that. So I do want to just show the book cover, the title. Please make sure you go out there and grab a copy.
Yeah, Erase from History. Make sure
And
you
it's
grab
Erase
it.
from
It's a
History.
really good read. From what Vince
written
was
by
saying,
Derek
so.
Burrows.
Erase from History.
Yeah, so great book. You'll love it. You won't be able to put it down. All right, CBD. That's going to wrap this up. Again, Rapid Reaction Monday night following the game,
Following.
and then Wednesday we're back, and then hopefully we're back to regular schedule. How did you not get a bye this week?
The Jets declined the bye. They had the option to have a bye or decline it. They declined. They wanted to have it later in the year.
Is that another reason why Saleh got fired?
Yeah, because Aaron Rodgers saying, dude, I could have used that week off.
That's what I'm thinking. All right. Well, that's going to wrap this one up. For my co-host, Stevie D, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you soon.
What you gonna listen to? Oh, Double is Sports. What you gonna listen to? Oh, Double is Sports. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie D are gonna break it down about the team from their hometown. Josh to Keon, touchdown. Rodgers to Wilson, touchdown. You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two